It is a joy to worship with some of our non-human friends today. Perhaps next year more will join us on this day. Blessing of animals is not a completely random idea, I hope you know. This time of year, congregations around the world bless animals, either those who are pets or those who help with labor. October 4th, you see, is the feast day of St. Francis. St. Francis is that guy that you've seen in the long robe with birds near him. He's often in pictures or in lots and lots of garden sculptures. St. Francis is recognized by Catholics as the saint of animals, or more recently, the saint of ecology. A few pieces of history point to his role with animals. Apparently, St. Francis was the first person to assemble a nativity scene. That ubiquitous Christmas decoration first appeared in 1223, when St. Francis arranged some actors and live animals to represent that nativity moment. Eventually, the actors and animals were replaced with sculptures. But we all know that no nativity scene would be right without at least a few animals bearing witness. And there are two legends about St. Francis that also talk about his relationship with animals. One legend is about him preaching to a flock of small birds. They didn't fly away at the sound of his voice, as St. Francis informed them that they should be grateful for their happy flying life. And another legend tells how St. Francis negotiated peace between a village and a wolf that was menacing that village. Through a serious conversation with the wolf, he convinced the wolf to stop bothering the townspeople, and in exchange, they would provide food for the wolf on a regular basis. Everyone held up their part of the bargain, and the village and the wolf lived happily ever after. He lived a long time ago. Some of the details of his life are a little fuzzy. The one concrete piece that we have from St. Francis is one of the few writings he left behind. It's called The Canticle of Brother Sun. That writing has inspired many, many pieces of art and music, including our closing hymn today. It's All Creatures of the Earth and Sky. We'll sing it in a minute. We love our pets in so many different ways. Sometimes they're practically members of the family. The last time my parents rescued a dog from the shelter called their good friend as a personal reference. And yes, you have to provide references to rescue some dogs from shelters. So our family friend told the shelter, "Let me put it this way. If I die, I want to come back as one of the Doss's dogs." Now, they aren't just pets, of course. Animals have meant a whole bunch of different things throughout history and around the world. They've captured our dreams and shared our living spaces. They've been worshipped as gods and linked with good and bad luck, and been seen as sources of power and wisdom. Just think of it. Think of Noah, or Aesop's fables, or astrological signs, or the Chinese calendar. Whether you have pets or not, animals are part of our collective human wisdom. Since ancient times, the dog has been seen as a companion animal, symbolizing loyalty and protection and hunting. Shortly after they were domesticated, dogs became commonplace in human populations, and they spread across the world with humans. Immigrants from Siberia likely crossed the Bering Strait with dogs in their company. Sled dogs probably contributed to the success of waves of humans coming into North America 12,000 years ago. That's a long time for those canine friends to carve out a special place in our hearts. Cats go back almost as far. In 2004, a Neolithic grave was excavated in Cyprus that had both human skeletons and a cat that was clearly laid next to it. It's estimated to be 9,500 years old. We think cats were probably domesticated during the agricultural revolution. They've been worshipped as gods, persecuted as demons, and associated with extraordinary range of both positive and negative symbolism. Some people, I don't know about this congregation, but I'm willing to bet someone in here has special bonds with a much larger animal, with horses. Around the world, horses are seen as symbols of nobility and speed and freedom. They're also depicted in classical statues and in art. And they may be the oldest of our human fascination with animals. Remember those paintings on the cave in France? 20,000-year-old cave paintings depicting horses. With them are woolly mammoths and reindeer. Birds also capture the imagination. They're symbols of messengers for the human imagination. And the Harry Potter franchise, birds, and particularly owls, are the mail carriers. And that little expression, "a little bird told me," comes from the ancient belief that birds confided secrets. And of course, we have our U.S. national identity wrapped up in that eagle, right? The eagle symbolizes victory and omniscience, seeing from above. It's also been adopted by Germany and the Roman Empire. It was the imperial emblem of the Russian and Austrian empires as well. It's one very power-hungry bird. Animals of all different varieties have captured our imagination for a very long time. We're so fascinated by them that we make them up. Mythical beasts abound too. They're a symbol for supernatural power and different aspects of the human psyche. A lot of lore talks about having to slay one of them, like the dragon. And then there are some great creatures. There are mermaids and Capricorus and the phoenix and the thunderbird. And again, Harry Potter unleashed a whole menagerie of new creatures for us. We UUs don't call on mythical beasts to protect us, and most of us don't interpret citing a particular animal to mean anything for us individually. We simply know that by sharing our homes and sharing our earth with all creation, we're all in this together. From the most fearsome shark to the cuddliest kitten, they are our sisters and our brothers. A few years ago, a colleague pointed out something about our seventh principle that has stuck with me. It was probably 5 or 6 years ago. Reverend Rod Richards, I know a few of you heard him speak in San Luis Obispo recently. So our 7 principles are the fruit of countless hours of writing and, I can only imagine, innumerable committee meetings, even an entire vote of our Unitarian Universalist Association to finally approve them. You can tell in the detail and the nuance of the language how much effort went into them. They're beautiful and poetic and sometimes a little bit wordy. Even though they're our guiding document, no one remembers all of them. We tend to think of them in shorthand. We know that the 5th principle is about democracy. And the first one is about worth and dignity of everyone. And the 7th principle, of course, is the web. We know the web. The writing of this 7th principle, though, is peculiar in its form. Maybe the authors recognized our stubbornness or how difficult the concept is. I don't know. But the 7th principle tells us the same thing 3 times. First, it offers us a lovely and gentle metaphor. We affirm and promote the interdependent web. Ah, the web. It's a lovely symbol. In case you didn't get it, it clarifies with the phrase of all existence. We affirm and promote the interdependent web of all existence. And finally, for that deep down stubbornness, we get one more reminder. All existence means you too. The 3-layer knock the stubbornness right out of you principle says we affirm and promote the interdependent web of all existence, of which we are a part. Sometimes poetry doesn't seem to work, I guess. Sometimes we need to be whacked over the head with a clear message. The 7th principle is a newer one, added in the 80s. But from the beginning of American Unitarianism, connection with the earth has been a defining feature of our tradition. The Transcendentalists, you know them as Emerson and Thoreau, but there was a whole cadre of 19th century Unitarians. They embraced nature as a gateway to knowing the sacred. Nature wasn't just pretty. We weren't just supposed to take care of it or be grateful for what it does for us. They taught that experiencing nature deeply is a gateway to understanding the nature of reality. Emerson and Thoreau described it in much more poetic terms. Sometimes it seems we need to cut through the poetry to get at the heart of the matter. The idea goes something like this. When we're deeply aware of nature, we're aware of ourselves as an observer and in connection with a much bigger whole. We're both individual and fundamentally part of something much bigger than ourselves. And I hope everyone in this room has had that experience at some point. Maybe it's appreciating a coastline or the mountains or an arid desert. I hope that we've all appreciated the intricate web of ecology, and in that same moment, known that we're part of that web. So our transcendentalist predecessors believed, and I believe, that experiencing nature as both observer and participant reminds us that we're both a conscious individual and indistinguishably connected with the sacred reality that is so much bigger than we can even imagine. Transcendentalists came to their insight through reading of Eastern texts, the Hindu scriptures in particular. Yes, 19th century Unitarians were reading the Bhagavad Gita and the Upanishads. It's kind of wild if you think about it. And the story from those scriptures that I think most beautifully describes transcendentalism is about a boy named Svetakatu. And he was learning these lessons from his father. Eager to learn more, his father said, "Okay, tomorrow bring me a bowl of water and some salt." And his father said, "Place this salt in the bowl of water and then come back to me tomorrow morning." So the Svetakatu did what his dad said. The next morning, the father said, "Now bring me the salt that you put in the water." The son looked for it, but of course it couldn't be found. It had dissolved. The father said, "Taste some of the water from that side of the bowl. How is it?" "It's salty." "Now taste some from the other side of the bowl. How is it?" "It's salty," he said. The father said, "Okay, you can toss that water out and come back tomorrow." The next day, the father explained, "Here, likewise, in this body of yours, you do not perceive the sacred, but there it is. That subtle essence in you is also in all that exists. It is the sacred, and thou art that. Thou art that. The ferocity of nature, the cuteness of kittens, the solitude of an empty horizon, the cooperation of a bee colony, the beauty of a wild flower. Thou art that. And our appreciation for our animal friends and all of creation today, let us remember that we're in this together. In the softness and the strength of our own bodies, we remember that our difference from our animal brothers and sisters is a difference of degree, not a difference of fundamental type. Through our eyes and our ears and our hearts, as we care for those furry members of our family, we remember that we are indeed one vast family. And being caught up and sustained by this interdependent web of all existence, of which we are a part, we are grateful. Amen.